functions. So let me move this one out right here. We have similar functions in terms of producing the gametes, producing the hormones, etc. Oh, I guess I didn't tell you the testes also makes the male hormone testosterone in addition to producing the sperm cells. So thank you. All right. So in the female, the organ that is the equivalent, or we call it the homologue, of the testes is the ovary, because the ovary is where the egg cells develop. And so what's really neat about the females is that in females, these egg cells develop at different stages as you progress in age. So when you are born, you have about 1 million egg cells. And at this very early stage of development, they're called primordial oocytes. And then when you hit puberty, the egg cells go on to develop to a different stage. How many of you are familiar with the stages of meiosis, where you have the development of sperm and egg cells? You've heard that term? Okay, so they continue to develop through the stages of meiosis when you hit puberty. And then every month as you release an egg, that's called ovulation, then the eggs further develop. And then the egg gets released, 1 egg each month, and it literally goes out into this space. It's the peritoneal cavity. And luckily, you have this structure right nearby that is called that is part of the fallopian tubes. And these little structures that you see here move in a wave, and they suck the egg. They create a wave that literally sucks the egg up into this space. So the egg comes up over here. These cells that line this hollow organ have cilia on them, and that helps to move the egg along. Now, if the female has had sexual intercourse and sperm have entered into this area, the sperm swim up the vagina. This area right here is the vagina. This is the cervix. All of this right here is the uterus. So the sperm swim up from the vagina, up the cervix, up the uterus, up the fallopian tubes, and meet the eggs over here. Okay? And then fertilization usually occurs in this area of the fallopian tube. Then, once it's fertilized, those cilia on the cells that line the fallopian tube move the egg along its way. And as the egg is moving, it starts to divide by mitosis. So you started out with 1 fertilized egg, then you end up with 2, those 2 divide, you end up with 4, etc. All the way until the egg moves down in this area and then implants in the uterus. And it has to specifically implant in the inside lining of the uterus. It's called the endometrium, and then it should be set on its way after that. So these ovaries then carry out that function of developing the eggs. They also are the organ, it's also the organ that is responsible for the secretion of estrogens and progesterone, as we'll talk about on Monday. So there's the ovary right here. This structure, all of this, all the way up to here is what? Fallopian tube, also called the uterine tube. All of this right here is the uterus. This little narrow part of the uterus is the cervix. This is the part that the obstetrician checks when a female is about ready to give birth. And you hear about the cervix has to be so many centimeters dilated. So what they'll do is they know how many centimeters in diameter their finger is. They'll put their finger, they'll kind of feel for that, and they'll say, oh, okay, it's about 6 centimeters or 10 centimeters, whatever. It's not till it gets to about 10 centimeters and has stretched out quite a bit, is pretty thin, that the baby can then emerge. Otherwise, it's too close, too tight for the baby to actually emerge through that cervix. Okay, and then from here on down, that would be the vagina. And the vagina, of course, has the function of receiving the male penis and the sperm that are ejaculated during sexual intercourse. So on this model over here, you see a little bit different, it looks just a little bit different. Here, first of all, you can see that there's a baby in this uterus. This right here would be what? The cervix. And what is all of this? This is the vagina. And then what is this right here? That's the bladder. And what's this? This is the urethra. And then what's this back here?
It's the rectum.
This from here on down is the rectum, and from here on, this is the sigmoid colon, right? Sigmoid turns into the rectum. So notice that the uterus is right between the bladder and the rectum. And so when a female is pregnant, that can sometimes cause problems because the female has the urge to urinate frequently because you're pushing down on that detrusor muscle, so it's receiving that signal that it's time to urinate. And then of course it also closes off this space in the rectum, and so it's hard for the feces to move through. So the female has what feels like constipation, and then of course tries to strain to get rid of that. That leads to hemorrhoids. It's lovely. No, it is. It's beautiful. If you ever make that decision to have a baby, it's a beautiful, beautiful part. Okay, so I think that is most, except for the external genitalia of the female. So there are a couple of other structures that we need to look at. First of all, this, what you see in blue right here, is the equivalent of the erectile tissues in the male penis. This is called the clitoris, and when the female is sexually excited, likewise, it becomes filled with blood, and then if she receives enough stimulation, of course, then she can reach orgasm from there. And then in these structures are two of the labia in the female. This big fold of tissue that you see on the outside is called the labia majora. It has skin covering it and can also have pubic hair that covers it. Whereas this inner fold of skin is called the labia minora. It doesn't have any skin. It looks like a mucous membrane on the outside, and that is the labia minora. And then on, let's see, on this model you can just barely see, not too well, those same structures. Here is the outer labia majora, right here, and then this right here is the labia minora. And then on this model, the clitoris is this little mass of tissue that you can see in red, right here. And then on this model, the yellow structure right here is the ovary. And then what's this red coming this way?
Fallopian
That's
tube.
the fallopian tube, and here's the uterus. Okay, and then this right here on this model would be the, yeah,
The bladder.
that would be,
turned around.
here's the, it turned around, so okay, let's do it on this one. Right here, this is what?
Uterus.
The uterus, and what's this right here?
Cer-
Cervix, that's the cervix, and then that's just from the model. This right here is the, that's the vagina right there, very good. And what's this right here? Bladder, urethra, and then right here is the rectum. Okay, very good. And then one other thing about the bladder, about the uterus, is that the uterus has several different layers to it. It's similar to the layers that, or it's named similar, and even similar structure, to the layers in the heart. The layers in the heart, the very inside layer is called the endocardium. In the uterus, the very inside layer is called the endometrium. In the heart, the layer of muscle is called the myocardium. In the uterus, the layer of muscle is called the myometrium. In the heart, we have epicardium. In the uterus, we have epimetrium. So again, it's endometrium on the inside, myometrium is the muscle layer, and then you have epimetrium on the outside. And that endometrium is important because it is the endometrium that is stimulated to develop each month as the female goes through the monthly menstrual cycle. So the inside of the uterus starts to build up with blood, with tissues, just in case the female has a fertilized egg that needs to implant in there. If the female does not become pregnant at the end of that, then all of the inside of the endometrium is shed. And that shedding is what we know as menstruation. And so each month the female needs to take care of that. In our culture, the way that we take care of that is we have a couple of different options. You can either use what's called a tampon, right? And the tampon is just a cotton cloth that's inserted in the vagina, and it will catch all of the blood as it flows down. of course, there's a string attached to the end of the tampon, and I say this mostly for the males. I know the females are aware of this, but for the males, there's a string attached to it, and that's how you can take it out each month and
Will's
how
like,
you
"Which
can- more than how you can take it out each time and you know, and catch that blood. The other option, of course, is that you can have a